The United States imposed extensive human rights-related sanctions on dozens of people and entities tied to China, Myanmar, North Korea, and Bangladesh, to an investment blacklist. Washington says it wants to send a message that it will act against those who abuse the power of the state to inflict suffering and repression.
The European Union warned Russia that it would face consequences if it invaded Ukraine, as Germany's new chancellor called for talks to resolve tensions after Moscow amassed troops on the border with its southwestern neighbor. Earlier in the day during a visit to France, German Chancellor called for a revival of the Normandy format talks between Germany, France, Russia and Ukraine to resolve the crisis.
Russia demanded that NATO rescind a 2008 commitment to Ukraine and Georgia that they would one day become members, and said the alliance should promise not to deploy weapons in countries bordering Russia that could threaten its security. Russia accuses Ukraine and the United States of destabilizing behavior, and has said it needs security guarantees for its own protection.
As top US and Israeli officials met to discuss options in the event that ongoing talks with Iran to revive the 2015 nuclear deal do not produce a lasting agreement, Iran has issued a warning that any military force taken against the Islamic Republic would be unsuccessful and met with a comparable response.
International donors have agreed to release $280 million in aid from the Reconstruction Trust Fund for Afghanistan. The World Bank in a statement said the step has been taken after repeated warnings that more than half of Afghanistan's population faces acute food shortages this winter.
To meet the conditions set by the International Monetary Fund for the revival of its $6 billion loan, the Pakistani government is all set to table a mini-budget before Parliament next week. The finalized draft of Tax Law's Fourth Amendment Bill 2021 to abolish almost around 100 tax exemptions as a standard rate of 17% GST would become applicable with the approval of Parliament.
Asian Development Bank has approved $385 million in financing to help improve livability and community health in 5 cities of KPK, according to an ADB press statement. These cities include Abbottabad, Kohat, Mardan, Mingora, and Peshawar.
The Pakistani Foreign Office has criticized the planned diplomatic boycott of the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing by the United States and some other countries and called for keeping politics out of sports. He was commenting on reports that the US, Canada, the United Kingdom and Australia would not send their officials to Beijing in protest against the host country's human rights violations.
Pakistan has lost 11 lives to the coronavirus. According to NCOC, 395 new infections were reported in the last 24 hours. The positivity rate was recorded at 0.77%.
West Indies coach Phil Simmons had no hesitation in coming to Pakistan. In fact, he's happy to be here. The same goes for the players who have arrived in the country for the white ball tour starting next week, the West Indies coach said. That was never a concern for the former West Indies all-rounder Simmons, even though his team is the first to tour Pakistan since New Zealand abandoned their tour and England cancelled theirs earlier this year due to security and mental health issues.